All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a talk on Clarkstown. I'm Larry Kigler, I'm the town historian, and that's by default, okay? That I became historian because unfortunately the original historian passed away, Bob Knight, and he knew a lot more than I did, okay? But this is gonna be, well, first let me do a couple of things, and I just want to thank George Holman for hosting this for the town, and to Erica and Stacy, who they're people who work here and help out, and to Chris and Maria. Some of these people added some pictures in for me, and to my wife, who helped me do the talk, which is, let me tell you, my Apple does not talk nicely to my Dell or my Levora or whatever, and none of these things want to communicate with each other. And it's very difficult. So my wife's really my tech person who helps me organize everything. Without her, I'd be lost. So just a little bit of information about myself. I grew up here in Rockland. My family came here in the 1870s to Haverstraw. Why? We don't really know. I meant to ask my father before he passed away. I don't know if he knew, but the whole family came up here, and there were the brickyards in Haverstraw, and we were really the merchants. We had a saloon, we had the hardware store, my grandfather was one of the first electricians, and so on and so forth. But there was a big brick industry, which also relates now, the brick industry related to the ice industry in Rockland Lake, because during the summer, people would work in the brickyards, and then the laborers had nothing to do. They'd go over to the ice houses in Rockland Lake, which you'll see pictures of later on, that they worked harvesting the ice. And you've all probably heard of the Knickerbocker, well, you heard of the Knickerbockers, the basketball team, but it was the Knickerbocker Ice Company, was one of the big companies there. And they shipped ice all over the world. The reason is that Rockland Lake was a spring-fed lake, and you got crystal clear ice out of it. So they harvested it, and it's something they shipped all over the world. All right. Just a brief history on Clarkstown, that in 1776, the Caveat patent was sold to 5 different men. One of them happened to have been Daniel D. Clark, all right? And he bought part of the land there. He owned it for a while. Then it wasn't really named anything, but he sold it in 1764, and that's when it became Clark's property, or became Clarkstown. Now that's what happened in a lot of areas, local areas. A lot of these little areas became, the person who settled the area, their name attached, like Blawville, Bardonia, a lot of these little areas became the person who lived there, and that's how they achieved their name. The town of Clarkstown was formed in 1791, and it was actually part of Orange County as of 1791. One of the problems was that you had to go to court. You had to go all the way up to Goshen, or you had to go down to Tapan. There were certain courts around the county. Oh, also one thing I got to say. All my talks come with a disclaimer. I may tell you things that are true. I may tell you things that are sort of hearsay, and some things I may make up. So it doesn't really matter, but certain of the things, to the best of my knowledge, I have to say with all my talks that I try to do the best I can, all right? So, but in 1791, Clarkstown, town of Rockland County was formed. Now, they needed a place right in the center, this is a story I was told, to triangulate the easiest place to get to for everybody. So they pointed to the middle of the map, or the center, and they said, we'll form a new city here. And that's supposedly how they got the name of New City. Now, New City is just a hamlet. And please understand, Nanuet, Bardonia, these are not towns, they're just an area. It's just they're called hamlets. Only we reside in the town of Clarkstown, all right? And that was basically it. I have some other things to talk about, but as we go along, we're going to start the slideshow if this cooperates. There we go. This is our crest that we use, but I've updated to 2020. Jeff, you want to just, sorry, thank you. Now, of course, I'm going to jump back and forth, and you'll understand as I go on. Now, why would I have this guy Thomas Dexter? All right, now I'm very much into postcards. I have 7,000 Rockland County postcards. But Tom Dexter was the founder of Dexter Press. They used to be in Pearl River, but they moved to West Nyack. Now, if anybody traveled around the world, believe it or not, over the years, even though they don't use postcards much more, postcards were the email of the day. You got to remember, because I could write a letter to Aunt May saying, I'll be on the 3 o'clock train, meet me at the train station, you mail it today, it'll be there tomorrow, and she would meet you there. That's how everybody communicated back in 1900. But he perfected the offset printing in the United States for postcards. And if you travel around the world, you look in the back, where was it printed, in West Nyack or Pearl River? Later on it was West Nyack, and that's where postcards started. Now, if you collect postcards, this is just a generic postcard. Please understand, this could say Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They'd stick the name on it, say greetings from, somebody would send it, it didn't, somewhere. Now, this is the oldest postcard I have, 1873. They really started printing postcards just around that 1870 or so. And they weren't printed pictures because that didn't come out till later. It was just information. You weren't really allowed to write things on. One side was just the name of where it was going, and the back has had the information. This was just from the Bank of Rockland County. There are certain cards that are real photo postcards. This happens to be Valley Cottage. But this is a real photo postcard where somebody went out with a camera, took a picture, they went back and developed a couple of them and sold them in one of the little stores around. So they're very difficult. And the other ones, Dexter mass produced a lot of cards. What changed Rockland County? Well, there were a couple of things. And what changed Clarkstown really, because now let me back up and say, growing up in Clarkstown, it was a rural area. And all we had were basically farms. We had cows. What traffic jam to me was George Smith marching his Clydesdales down Little Tor Road, which ended at Joanio, and you got stuck behind the horses and you got really pissed. But I was young, and then you remember there are things to reminisce about, going to Davy's farm to get corn, or going over to Smith Farm, or going to Cropsey. And many of young people worked at Cropsey, and Jim Cropsey just passed away just recently. But these are the things that changed. Now, please understand, the Bear Mountain Bridge is not in Rockland County. It's in Westchester and Orange County, okay? It ends right at Bear Mountain. It ends 1,000 feet past it, but it changed Rockland County, as well as the Tappan Zee Bridge. And I don't care what they call that thing today. It's gonna be the Tappan Zee Bridge forever until they change it back, And it's just one of those things and all of us will remember that. Okay, getting right. Here's Bardonia. Now, please, I'm not offended. Now, please let me say, this is kind of a lengthy program. I'm trying to talk about all the different areas. If you want to leave, I have no problems with it. I'm not insulted or anything. Also, if anybody has any questions as I go along, ask them as we go along, instead of later, okay? And I don't get flustered, or it doesn't really bother me.
Can I take a picture occasionally?
You can do whatever you want.
Thank you.
Okay, so here we are. This is Bardonia, okay, and the tracks ran along the side of 304, and this is to the east of 304. This is where the train station was. This is what's there today. It's CVS. They're right on the corner. They just recently knocked that building down within the past, maybe it's 10 years. Everything's recent to me, This was the hotel and the train station. It was one of the combination buildings. The train ran from New City, went to Durant, then it went to Germans, then to Bardonia, and then down to Nanuet, and you could go into Jersey, or you could go out west out to Suffern. Yeah, go ahead. You just shout out.
Yeah, whatever happened to Durant? Because it was...
Durant was just a little area. It was nothing. It's like Lake Nanuet, okay? Or it's just like Centenary. Or they're all little areas, and that's all it was. Germans is just a little area. We'll talk about it later on. But these were just little areas that they assigned a name to, so people would know, get off the train or whatever.
So if I was sending a letter to somebody who lived in Durant, it would still be a Bardonia address?
No, it would go to Durant, because if you sent it, if it's in Rockland County, you'd have to put Rockland County on it, and they would know where it was. They would find it. The post office was good back then, and it's not like today. Sometimes I sent the letter out to somebody, it got lost, it's a payment, it's gone, so it's, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes, on that postcard in Bardonia, you showed that there was a little railroad track sign there.
Yes.
And the railroad tracks was there. As a little boy, we walked Bardonia, first opened up Bardonia Elementary on that trail where the railroad was. But is that railroad property, or did that, I know they built things in front of it, but I don't know if that trail is still there. It used to run past Albertus Magnus.
Yes, you'll see.
Is it owned by the railroad? Or
It was owned by the railroad. The property was owned by the railroad. Eventually, I guess they sold it off, or, it just absorbed it into other pieces of property. That I don't really know the answer to that. That's CVS today. This is Bardonia Road, looking down past there, going east towards West Nyack. All right. Now, the computer doesn't want to do this right. This is called a Landis card, and this is Monterey Swim Club, all right, which a lot of you remember going swimming there and whatnot. I jumped off the high dive, I smashed my face at the bottom of that pool. It was just like, it was concrete, so it just, but whatever, that's a story for itself. But this is called the Landis card. There was a gentleman who went around painting characters of all, like, bungalow colonies, hotels. He did all the Catskills and everything. But if you had an establishment, and let's say you had a swimming pool, well, we'll go to a hotel. We said, oh, well, one day I want to put up a tennis court. So he put the tennis court in there. Or if he wanted a handball court, he put it in casinos. Whether it was really there or not wasn't really important. But he'd add it in and embellish all the pictures. This is actually Monterey, and that's the pool that I smashed my So that's and it's still, the area is on the I don't know if there's apartments or condos there now. Now this road, this is an interesting road. And I say, everybody don't shout it out all at once. If you know what road this is the road to the Turnpike. I'll give you a hint, because the Turnpike is Route 59. What road is this in Bardonia? I'll tell you real quick, because I don't want to keep it. This is Route 304. Okay, this is the church. Now I'm going to get this. This is the school. This is the church. Now, because I just have to think, the church moved to Nanuet. It's the one on the corner. It's St. Anthony's. This is where it started out. It started out in Bardonia, and then they moved over the corner of a Middletown Road and 59 there. St.
Do you know when this is?
When this is roughly 1910, 1915. Okay, this was the Barton Hotel before they built the other one. This was, now what these were, there were stops along the railroad, and people came up and stayed overnight because it was a big trip to travel from the city or wherever you went. You got to remember, this was all rural areas, and there were a lot of bungalow colonies starting in the 1930s and 40s, which the train brought all the people up to. So it's still, still some of them exist. That's Route 304, and that's roughly where that picture was taken, looking south. Now this happens to be looking north, but you see the church again. That's 304 again. This was the church in Bardonia. I mean the school. I'm sorry, the school, and that was the church. All right. Now on to Congers. This is St. Paul's Church, which is at the end of the lake. Now, I'm going to ask a question to those from Congers. Does anybody know where McGinnis Lake is in Congers?
Rock Lake.
No, it's Congers Lake. It was Congers. It renamed. It was McGinnis Lake because they had owned the property there, and then after that it became Congers Lake.
Congers Park, the lake itself.
The lake itself, Congers Lake. Yeah, the Sword Out Lake is on the other side, and there's Rockland Lake a little bit further back. This is what it looks like today. If you notice, all this water is on this side of the road, but they filled it all in. There weren't any rules and regulations back then, it's just like fill it in, what's the big deal, you know? We didn't have to go to the town to ask for permission, we just did it. This is Congress Road, still looks very much the same. You got the Last Chance Saloon over here, and you'll see as we will. Now, Rockland Lake was the big stop. You came up from the city on the train, and sorry, back up, I said that wrong. Congers was the big stop for Rockland Lake, because you came up to Congers, got off the train, and horse and buggy would take you over to Rockland Lake. We're going to talk later on, we're going to talk more when we get to Rockland Lake. Rockland Lake was a big recreational area, and a lot of people came up here, and then you went over to there. That's what it looks like today, basically the same. There's the railroad crossing. That's looking east. And the pizzeria is over here today. It used to be a hardware store, and that's the Last Chance Saloon. That's the railroad track. I just try to give comparisons of what it looked like then and now. This is the Mayo's Hotel. If you remember that as Mayo's Hotel, it was the bowling alley, I think, and Dorothy Knapp had the auction house there, and that's the train station. Oh, go back. That's the train station, which is now, the town owns it, and they have a little museum upstairs. That's just looking at it going north. I'm sorry, north. And that's actually a picture, believe it. It doesn't look like a picture, but that's what it looks like today. Now, does anybody recognize this little place? And I'm sure you've all eaten there. Rick's, that's it. It's Rick's Club America. Okay. Now, back they had it was a hotel at one time. They had rooms upstairs. You go fishing across the street in Congress Lake. Like I said, it was a resort area, or you could go across to Rockland Lake to do whatever they were going to do. Here's the firehouse in Congress. This is where it is today. This is the hill going up to Last Chance Saloon. This is the firehouse as it exists today. Now, does anybody recognize this? This was the Hawaiian Luau. Now, my parents used to go there, and this is the restaurant. I can't remember the name. It's a Spanish restaurant. What is it, sir?
Sangria?
Sangria. Yes, this is Sangria today. It was the hibachi place after it'd been lots of different places over the years, but it was the big hangout. The Hawaiian, everybody met there. All the young people would go there and hang out. This is Swartout Lake, which is the other lake in Congress, going a little bit north on the other side. And everybody says there's all kinds of things dumped there. And first, the cannons were thrown. See, they stole the cannons from Havistor. They dumped them in the lake. They found them later on. It's just all kinds of stories and all kinds of cars dumped in there. But whatever, there's all kinds of stories. Yes?
I just want to say the picture before, it had Rockland Lake prominently right on the top, right? And it's like, I think their whole identity was the lake.
Yes, because it was the resort area. There were casinos at Rockland Lake. There was Hook Mountain State Park was down at the bottom, which was a big beach area. They actually had a pier there where the dayliners would come up and dock, and people would come. That's a little bit later on. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. That's the bridge. If you go there, that's what it looks like today. That's that little area. That's the bridge there next to the condos. Now, this is the Four Corners as you come up the hill from New City. This house was there until recently, and I forget his Cole had bought up all three corners. He's trying to buy the church, but they wouldn't sell it to him. He wanted to own all four corners there, but they knocked the house down one day, and they just did it overnight. So we would have fought with them, but that it was just one of those things. That's what it looks like today with the church and the house gone. This was the church. This is this church on the side here, originally before all the additions were put on. This is around 1910, 1915. That's the church as it is today. And this was across the street next to where the church was. There was a big hotel there. Why, I don't know, but there was. This is the Congress High School. This was Congress High School and the regular school and everything, because originally, you went to, for everybody from Clarkstown, New City, went to Congress to go to high school before they built the school on this side of the reservoir. Anybody recognize this little place which just closed, which we've all eaten there? Bully Boy. Okay, that was in its heyday, and by what we celebrate all of our anniversaries there. You know, we go there for the scones and the honey. You know, but unfortunately, they closed. They went out of business. They've closed down now. That's what it looks like today. Now we're on to Germans. Germans was one of the stops on the railroad tracks, you know, on the railroad station. It was just a little area as Durant, and although Bardonia was much bigger. The only thing was there was the church, pictures of the church, the inside. There's got to be a talk at Germont, just let me say this, that, I know Chris is not here, but, and I don't remember the date, but on July 21st at Germont, yeah, one second, just let me make sure I get this. Yeah, July 21st, they're going to have a talk at Germont's church, the history of the Germont's church. I don't know what time. If you're interested, you have to really call them. Then, this was the station at Germont's. It was just a little shed. What it was just to keep you out of the rain. Now, I've collected postcards for 30, 35 years. This, somebody just sent me 2 weeks ago. I've never seen this picture before. But that was the track that ran from New City down through into Nanuet and out to Suffern or down into Jersey. Now we're into Nanuet. This building was at the Five Corners of Nanuet. Right before you get to Pearl River, there's like the Five Corners, the split there. I call it the Five Corners. And that's where the firehouse was. Oh, that's the town, yeah. The town hall and the firehouse. Now, that's the area now, and that's the train station. I got this one thing out of order. That's today the train station. That's the school up on the hill, which is still there. It's got the big playground in front of it now. And that's Highview, yep. That's what it looks like today. Now here's Mario's, okay? This is bustling downtown Nanuet. You know, now it was a big town. You know, you'll see the scenes going the other way, but you see that building down in the back there. That was the town hall and the firehouse. This was Mario's. It still looks basically the same today. That, you know, this was a resort or it was a milk farm. Well, how do I describe it? It was a rest area, you know, you came up here during the summer. This is where Bob's Furniture is today. Okay? The steps were actually there until a couple of years ago, right before the train tracks. If you're going east on the left-hand side, these steps were still there right before the train trestle going across over towards the mall. That's the wall there now. And that's where it was. Nanuet Hebrew Center, which is now in New City. It's, you know, it moved, and it was Stop and Shop, and I don't know if I have it in there. It's Floor and Decor now. This is St. Anthony's, which moved from over in Bardonia over here to Nanuet. That's as it exists today. You can, if anybody want, you know, it doesn't. But you know, it doesn't. This is St. Anthony's Home for Children. It was a huge place. If you going towards Pearl River, you went down Convent Road, and it was on the left. It was a huge. It was open until a few years ago, but they had the boys' dormitory, the girls' dormitory. I'm not 100, and I won't swear to this because I don't know how they really ran it. It was a school. I don't know if it was also a fresh air fund that they had. I'm not exactly 100% sure.
It was a school, a New York City school for children who in need of provision.
Okay.
Saint Agatha.
Oh, say that.
Not Saint Anthony.
They had city teachers there, Larry.
Okay.
City personnel were teaching the kids.
And the kids lived.
Isn't that where the cops have the horse farm?
Yes, yes.
My daughter took horse lessons, yeah.
Yes, it's the old property.
Oh, the old,
school district
yeah.
of Nanuet bought
See?
that old property.
I even
and they
learned.
allowed the horse barn, the cop's barn to be over there, that's a
Thank
part of
you.
it.
Yeah, that's
All right. And then there was the boys' dormitory and the girls' dormitory. This is what's still left there. This one building. That's as it looks today. It's still basically the same. I don't know if the nuns still live there or
I think
who
so.
actually uses it.
That's who used it,
All right.
there aren't any left.
All right. Now we're looking at bustling Main Street. You know, this was a big area. You got to remember. Because go ahead. Yes.
I'm sorry, just going back to the school, was it ever, or part of it, ever an orphanage?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
originally, I
My
think it
grandfather
was.
in that
Because
orphanage.
I went.
Oh, okay, so she said
they had a
School
reunion.
in Westchester.
Yeah.
We used to come across every year for a fair, and we always called it the Nanuet Orphanage. We didn't know it as anything else.
Okay. So I'm sorry. This young lady said.
Yeah, my grandfather was in the orphanage, when he was young. He was born in 1907, so I'm not sure what years he was there, but.
Okay. This is bustling downtown Nanuet, you know? But everything was horse-drawn, everything, those were all dirt roads and whatnot back then. So this is the crossing, the railroad went across here. And I think Hutton Johnson was on the side here, the lumber yard. Unless that's Hutton Johnson, I'm not. Then here's Mario's again. But this picture, it might be reversed. Mario, yeah. Some of the, Mario, I'm sorry, Mary. I'm corrected, see? So I can't get everything 100% right. That's why it comes with a disclaimer. So there was also a bowling alley on the corner of Route 59 and Middletown Road. I keep calling it Little Tor Road because it's Little Tor Road further up where I lived. This was the Nanuet National Bank. Now, I don't know, this is a whole nother story. Now, before 1929, the towns would print their own money. The banks, if there was a big enough bank in the town, they would print their own money with their own name on it. And it was after, like I have Havisstraw money, I have Nyack money, and I have Suffern money. I do not own this bill because I don't think that, this was just, I found this picture online, but it was printed for one of the banks. I don't know, it must have been that bank there, and it became the national currency, but then they did away with it after all the banks failed and whatnot. You can still, some of this, they're very valuable things, but this is just something that you can learn about history. New City didn't have a bank, so we didn't have New City money. And this is the bank today, the Auto Pro. Now this is, of course, the Nanuet Mall, which is gone, you know. And, you know, you look down in front here, you remember the stores, now the bowling alley was over here on the corner, and I can't remember the names, but there were all these little stores all in the front that we used to shop in. Now, when I grew up here, there was nothing. The big stores were Corvettes, Two Guys. There was a Sears, in New City, there was a Sears outlet store. Grand Way, yes. And all these little places, you know, then, you know, in the towns, everybody went shopping basically in the towns. It was a big trip. You know, we went to Jersey to Paramus. That was a huge trip, or, you know, to was it Stearnsville? Hackensack, yes. You know, those were big trips. But in general, everybody shopped in the town. You know, even my own family, we had a clothing store in Havisstraw. So, but then the malls came along, and the malls are dying out today. You know, they're not. They're sort of transforming them into other things. They're eateries. You know, yes.
My dad used to drive tractor trailer on Route 304 when it was a dirt road, and you could buy an acre of property on Route 59 for $100.
Oh.
It was the headlights on the ferry going back across to Westchester.
Okay, there you go.
Like it was the Wakefield.
And how many did he buy? How many did he buy though?
Can you imagine $100?
$100, yep.
Back in the 40s.
Well, also my family, we were also farmers. We had an apple orchard on the corner of Buena Vista and Phillips Hill Road. And then we lost a lot of it to the building of the Palisades Parkway. This is the Nanuet Fire Department, very proudly, you know, out. This is the Nanuet Fire Engine Company, but this is the new building that they started built. This is a couple of years ago. Oh, it'll be there later on. Then there's Lake Nanuet, which is a big area. I don't know if anybody lives there, but a bunch of scenes there, and as it is today. If I'm going too fast for anybody, just ask me and I'll back up. It's not an issue. this is Centenary. Now, there's nothing really to Centenary other than the church and, Matt, what was the name of the, Sammy's. Sammy's was the store, and there was a beer garden on the other side. It was just a little area. There's nothing more, nothing less. Here, this is downtown New City, okay? This is 1964, roughly from what I could figure. Now, I always laugh, I don't want to make it larger because I'll screw the whole thing up. But back in this corner is the bowling alley, okay? This is the finest shopping center, finest supermarket, and this is the gas station that's still there. This is what was called Carvel Ice Cream Center, or Carvel Shopping Center, I should say. Over here, and you don't see it yet, this is where 304 is going to be. Okay, this is Town Hall, all right? This is where we are right now. And, oh, yeah, this is the Elms Hotel. And as you see, in 1964, they were doing construction there. Up until a few years, they're still doing construction. You'll see, they never really finished it. This is the old courthouse, or one of them.
Where's Vanderbilt on that line?
Vanderbilt, oh, one second, I'll get back here. Vanderbilt's is up over here. And now Vanderbilt's are gonna rip down, they're putting up senior housing there. Okay, this is downtown New City, the new business block. Now, back in the 1880s, a little bit earlier, Main Street was one street over, which is Maple Avenue. It used to be Main Street, but now, once it became popular, they moved it over, and this became Main Street. This is a little bit later. This is as during the construction. That was a couple of years ago. And this is as it is today, as it was the other day. That's the Elms Hotel, which is on the corner, which is Kevin Landau Park. This is the Elms Hotel. Now, the jurors used to go.
Go back one.
Yep. This is the Elms Hotel, yep.
Thank you.
Now, this is the Elms Hotel. Now, the court, when this existed, this is where all the jurors were taken for lunch. They used to take them across the street more and over here, and they'd have lunch there. Later on, they moved to the Union Hotel, which after this burnt down. I'll show you that later. This is the inside of the fine dining area there in New City. Tablecloths, everything, it's. Then, this is what I call the Carvel Center. But this is downtown metropolitan New City, and this is where we all hung out. We went to Carol's, not Burger King, we went to Carol's, we went to Maximus, we went to the VC Pub, all the highlights of our career growing up Rockland, growing up Clarkstown, there wasn't a lot here. There were a bunch of cows and farms and whatnot, and it's changed, it's changed a little bit. This is as it is today from the courthouse looking across the street. This is as they were doing construction. This is as it is today. Now here we are looking down. This is right across from the courthouse. This is the Elms. I just want to get a drink of water. This is the old courthouse over here on this side. You'll see pictures of it in a minute. But this has got to be 1910, 1915. Before cars, and then there were several hotels. I think there were 4 hotels. There was Horns, there was Clark's Hotel, I think, and there was also a racetrack across the street. There were numerous things. This is the New City Hotel. This was the big ball. They had just sent this out, the Washington's birthday, at the New City Hotel, 1863. It was an invitation. That's Horns Hotel. Now, the people came into New City because the courthouse was there. Not so, and because the train actually ended in New City, and you got off and you went to the courthouse and other things. Now, does anybody recognize this building? We had a Chevrolet dealer in New City.
Really?
Now, I'll show you what it is real quickly. It's Domino's Pizza today. It's still there, okay?
Go back to it, Larry?
Yeah. Now, if you look, the block is still there. It's still exactly the same. If you go and look at the building, you'll see it's the same, except they added a second floor to the building. Yes?
Just to go back, you had mentioned the racetrack in New City. It was actually the fairgrounds?
Yeah, the fairground,
And
yes.
it's- And it's actually located where the New City Garden Apartments
Yes.
were located.
Yeah, I don't,
And the interesting thing was that they had very high stakes races, and horses would actually come in on the train, and they would go from the New City train station over to the fairgrounds and then race. And the racing went through the 1930s, I think.
uh-huh. Yeah. It was the Rockland County, they had the fair here in New City, they also had the fair also in Orangeburg.
Yes.
They had the two big places. Now, this is the paper box factory, it's still there, it's called the Roberts Building. This is across the street, it's still there. Okay, it just looks a little different today. Then we have, this is looking south. This building is still there, it looks exactly the same. That was Econ's eye, you'll see the brick on the side.
Larry,
Yes,
when they put, like, this is Econ's now and that one, did they tear the buildings down or they
No.
left the framework up?
no, this is still the same. If you look, the brick is still the same here.
So they left the framework up and all?
They just, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
These buildings,
This is looking north. The picture's a little bit faded. They're not so. These are Garraway. Well, there's certain postcards which I really like. This guy Berkey from Nyack printed a lot of cards. Garraway came around and they took a lot of pictures. But these are real photo cards, which are real nice. These are actually the houses that are still there. If you notice the houses on the side, I don't mean to get you a headache, but they're still the same houses there. This is the New City, which, Mark, okay, was talking about the New City Fair. They had an industrial fair, and I even have a book on the whole thing that they printed, a little flyer, and they had all the agricultural stuff, and they had the races there. And this is the train. The train started in New City. There was a turn, after it turned around, they had a turntable right after the train station, which is still here, which is gonna get ripped down. They had a turntable, they turned it around and headed back south again. Now you talk about Photoshop. This is another thing I'm just trying to teach you about. These were not here. They took a picture of the train and they had these little plastic layovers that they put over the thing and they copied them. And you'd see this in other pictures. They wanted to look, modern or whatever. I've seen them, which they take the telephone poles out to make it look older. They put horses in, all kinds of things. This is 1905. Everybody thinks that it's new, new and modern. It's not. This is the train station. Now, apparently the train ran up until like the 1960s into the 70s, I believe. But this is the train station, 1920s or so, 1930s. This is how it looks today. It's basically falling down. We tried to save it for years, but it just didn't happen. It wasn't really, it was more of a depot. This was more of a cargo depot more than a person train station.
If I wanted to go see it, where is it?
It's behind the Vanderbilt store building.
Okay.
Okay? Just be careful up there. It's really falling apart. This is looking out the front of the courthouse, and if you see, there is no shopping center across the street here. Okay, and then that was built later on. This is 1940s. This happens to be, I have a whole collection of Dexter original photographs that they used to make all the prints from. I probably have a few hundred of them. They came from when they went out of business, but whatever, it's something that I have. This is the same picture looking today. Now this is around, we're trying to figure out, I can never figure out, this is a Berkey photo, but it's about 21 by about 15 or 18 inches tall. It's an original picture taken here. This is the original courthouse. Part of it was built in the, I'm not sure what year, but it was added on over the years, and the jail was built there. But we're trying to figure out what year those cars are to date the picture, but it's around 1915 or so, or 1918.
Late 20s.
Pardon me?
They're the late 20s, 1930s when they changed a little bit from that. That's like the 27, 20, 29 Ford.
Okay.
Those
Well,
are
that's-
Fords.
yeah, Fords.
All right, that's the courthouse as it kind of looks today. This is as it is today. This is a shot looking down the hill up New Hempstead Road. This is New Hempstead Road, okay? And this, I believe, this is the Eberling Shoe Factory here. This is the courthouse, and there's a couple other little things down
So
here.
the top of it is the Palisades then?
Pardon me?
The top part would be the Palisades?
Palisade behind us.
Yeah.
Behind, this is looking towards Congress.
This is towards the sheriff, towards the
Yeah.
sheriff's
Going
department.
downtown.
Where the sheriff's,
Yeah, but.
This is Vanderbilt's lumber. Now you look, I don't know why, there's a pair of shoes hanging there on the front door. These are the barns are still there, but it's all coming down now. There's nothing really historic about it other than it's an old building. That's as it is today. Now, at one time, there were 17 different airports in Rockland County. Okay, a lot of them were little tiny ones. This was Christie's Airport in the middle, in New City, off of Old 304. There was Spring Valley Airport, which you'll see later on, which is actually in Clarkstown. There was also the Colchis had their own plane down there on Strawtown Road. There's one at where the mall is. You'll see a picture of that later on. There was a bigger airport down there. There were a bunch of airports all over. There was a seaport down in Haverstraw. It was Haverstraw, or I think. Well, the Gurneys own it. I'm not sure where that was. This is actually a photograph. One of my friends. This is my friend's grandfather. Two of the sheriffs, and one of the Eberlings is in here or something. And this was on the airport that was on Strawtown Road. Can't remember the name of it right now, but that's.
Shoretown Dairy.
Yeah, no, but there was an airport over by where Colca had his own run. Colca just took off in the cornfield. You know, they didn't. There was another airport a little further down where Colt is and those other streets. Now, do you remember? This is my phone number from my home. Okay, and even when I got married to my wife, we lived in Valley Cottage. You only had to dial 4 numbers. You know, didn't matter. That's you know, and then it became NE4 and then 634. You know, it's just 914. So it's just a bit of history. But now Squadron Boulevard. Now you were talking about bringing the horses up to the racetrack. There was a company called the, Squadron A. They were left over from, I'm going to say, one of the wars. I can't remember which one. And there's a book written on it. But they would come and practice up here. They would bring their horses up on the train, or they take the train up to New City from the city, because they marched. They were part of a squadron. They only did really parades at this point. They'd march. They take the train up to New City, march from the train station down what is 304 or into New City, and where the library is today was where Squadron Boulevard is. That's why it's called Squadron A. They came up and marched and did all their training up here, and then went back to the city.
In addition to that, they used to do fireworks down there as well.
That's right.
Because I lived like in the middle of New City, and from our porch, because there wasn't a lot between us, we could watch the fireworks down where the library is. That's in the 50s.
Then, does anybody recognize this building? Because you're going to soon realize what it is, but it's St. Augustine's Church. It's going to be, you'll see it as it goes on. But then it looked like this, okay? Then it looks like this. It's the animal hospital, is where the church was. This is where it was. This was the parsonage over here. Okay, that was the church. Then they dug it out, and this became the animal hospital. Then they moved over to where, this is Forster's Hall, which is on Main Street, and you'll see what it is. Then it became this, okay? Then they ripped it down and it became this, okay? This is the whole, you know, history of the church, okay? Now this, you may not, you won't, unless you're Jewish, I'm not, you know, it's just, this was New City Jewish Center. This is where it originally started on Old Schoolhouse Road. This is what it looks like today. This is St. Paul's Episcopal Church. I'm saying St. John's, I'm sorry, that it moved to a different part of New City, but this is what it looked like. Then it became the Chase Bank, which is on the corner, which is next to St. Augustine's. And then they moved to I think it's Strawtown Road, where it is today.
What year did they build that?
I'm not sure, I think 1960s or in the 1960s or 70s, something like that. I'm not gonna swear to that, but somewhere in that era.
Okay.
Then the Methodist Church, which is still here today, it's across the street. And, well, this is where they moved to. That's their new building. This is the parsonage next door. That's what it looks like today. We'll get back to there's another picture, so little things are out there. This is downtown metropolitan New City, Maple Avenue again. If you notice, Maple Avenue ended here, right where this building is. There was the firehouse, okay? There's the church across the street. That's the, whatever, I'm gonna move on. That's what it looks like today, the Methodist Church. This is First Street, and it's still there. First Street cuts across. This is looking over towards Main. Now today, unfortunately, that's what was there. Oh, what happened to the parking lot? Well, whatever. They ripped the building down, and now it's a parking lot. Missed that one. This is a private residence in New City. We called it Greenies because I lived up near Little Tor Road. There was a lake behind it. Today, it's the sheriff's department. And the lake, they just redid the lake next to it, which I used to go ice skating on as a kid. Now they got a walking trail around it and whatnot. They just redid the whole thing. This is Lake Lucille, which I live on. And this is my backyard. And it still looks pretty much the same way it is today, but they used to go swimming, whatnot. This is Davy's farm, or Davy's house. This is the one that Cropsey lived in. The Cropsey still own it. It's just, she's still alive, but getting a little bit old. She has full-time nursing care. He passed away. But across the street was Davy's Lake. All right, and that was a resort area. There was a big swimming lake, a pool and whatnot. I didn't know, I got this card a couple of years ago. I didn't realize there was a hotel in there. You could stay over there too. This was the swim club behind the building. It's still vacant, all the property there. It's all filled in and whatnot. Swim club. Oh, now does anybody know the Hopewell Summerland, it was Hopewell Summerland Camp. Anybody recognize this? You'll figure it out in a minute. It's relatively easy. It was fresh air fun that they had. They had a lake there. They had cabins there for the kids to stay in. Today, it's Juanio. Up until recently, some of those buildings were still in the back there. I think they ripped them all down finally, and they've upgraded everything. Now, this was Old Doc Wilson's club. It was a boxing club. This was out in front of Finest, right downtown metropolitan New City, across from, right past the Carvel Shopping Center going a little north. This is Camp Norge. Now, what is Norge? For Norwegian. There were a lot of Norwegians moved here in the 50s and 60s. They had their own camp. This was up on where you go up Buena Vista to Old Phillips Hill, where the turn is. It's now part of the park. They had a church there. They had ball fields. They had bunks there, and it's now part of town property. Zippy Fleischer lived up there also. That was, if you know who she is. She was a famous clothing designer. She wrote a book, and her book was like the Bible. This is on to Delwood. This was originally Adolf Zucker estate, and he bought this property because of anti-Semitism. He wanted to golf, and they wouldn't let him golf anywhere, so he says, well, I got enough money, I'll just buy my own place and build my own golf course, and that's exactly what he did. He built this, there were all kinds of places for people to stay. Because he was a big movie producer, actually in the woods, I'm going to show you in a minute, behind here, he filmed the first Tarzan movie ever filmed was here in Rockland County. And he did some other movies there also. That's as it kind of exists today. This is 1970s, 1960s. This is what the estate looked like. Delwood as still pretty much the same. Some of the gardens in back. This was the bridge. This is in back there. This is where there were a bunch of caves. There were a lot of where the movie sets were made. And they I don't know, they found a lot of Indian artifacts, I was told, that back in the caves, but they've sealed them all up because they didn't want people going into them. It's part of the Dells Park now.
Would that go up to where High Tor State Park is now? 'Cause that was
No, well, it almost borders it, but no, it doesn't quite make it that far. This is New City Park. Now, this is right on Collier Avenue. Oh, I thought I had more to that. Okay, yeah, well, there is. They're kind of mixed. Well, I'll go back. This is looking up Maple Avenue. This is if you're standing where Bruno's is and looking in that direction north. That's Maple Avenue, 1905, 1910. Wasn't a lot here. Now this is the street. This is Demhurst Avenue, right out here. Looking now, you look. There's Vanderbilt's is right here. This is where 304 roughly is, and going off in that direction. Back to New City Park. This was the clubhouse. This is the swim area. This is the little lighthouse, which is still there at the end of the park, end of the lake. This is in the lake, this 1960s or so. And that's the bridge, that's one of the early bridges there.
And this is your Collier, you said?
Yeah, right off of Collier. If you go down Collier going towards New City on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, you'll see it. This is the estate of Lillian Durant. Now, there's a story with this house that Lillian Durant was an artist. She created a lot of these cards and whatnot, but my friends actually lived in this house, and they swore that it was haunted. Now, I was in the house many times, and there were a lot of squeaking and stuff going on. I didn't see anything move, but the story is that they said it was haunted, so, it's just... This was part of the estate, and that's why there was a station, there was a stop, Durant stop on the train station. You should walk down the street to the bottom of the hill to 304, and it's off of Laurel Road there, and that's where it was. She did a lot of these cards and whatnot. There's a whole series of them. It says New City, 1 mile, this is the Blauvelt house where the Historic Society is today. Vernon Mill for Vernon Drive. They cut tree, it was just a mill. That's where Vernon Drive came from. This is the Upper Lake, which is the lake for the Sheriff's Department that they just redid. Now, this says canoeing. I didn't throw this in because it's kind of comical. Canoeing on the Hackensack. I don't know exactly where you went canoeing on the Hackensack or where you would go, but this was before the reservoir. The reservoir was built, and down along the wetlands there. The reservoir wasn't built until the 1950s. Now, this is called Teaburyport. I have this in here because at one time the town owned this building, and it actually was on water company property, and they tried to save it or whatnot, but it started to fall down, and it finally just collapsed, and they ripped it down. But where is it? Okay, it's gone. I'll find it. There's a jug that says Ming tea, and they sold tea all over the world from out of this building. That's why I had it here. It's gone. This was the ARC building, which is up on Phillips Hill Road. It was the local how I'm going to say it. I'm sorry. What was?
Wasn't it electricians?
The electrician. Yeah, it was electricians. Yes, and you had weddings, parties, everything there. They rented it out, but today it's now that school. Rockland National Bank, which is right across the street here. That was when they had 8 offices back then. It had, you see here it says 8, but then they grew and grew and grew, and finally absorbed by somebody else. Carvel Shopping Center. and this is New City Bowl, well, Alice is not here, but that's where we hung out. You know, there was nothing else. You gotta remember the towns had, New City had 2 movie theaters. You had one uptown, you had one down over where Rocco Shopping Center is. But we hung out at the bowling alley. That's where you went, you know, and back then, it didn't matter. We went out and played all day long. Nobody worried about us. Took your bicycle, you went down to town or whatnot, and you came home. You went at 8 o'clock in the morning, you disappeared. You make sure you're home for 5 o'clock for dinner, you know, and that was basically it. And nobody seemed to care about you. Yes.
Yeah, for baseball fans, when they opened up New City Bowl, the guy that opened it, you know, one of the celebrities that had come was a Moose Scourin, first baseman for the Yankees. And that was like a gigantic deal, you know, that he came to the bowling alley.
Right, what year was that?
Must have been 60, 61.
Yeah.
Maybe a little later.
I remember also, they opened the movie theater. The first movie I ever saw was here in North New City, and it was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I remember that. And that was, and I guess I was 6 or 7, something like that. And we went to the movies. That was the big thing. They had opened the movie theater just recently. Maximus. Now there was a hangout for most of us, most of the alcoholics in town or whatever. You know, it's just. Sorry, Beth. I don't think I have that picture in there, Beth. Yeah.
So, where was Maximus?
It was in the Clarkstown Shopping Center, where Rocco's is.
Wasn't
No,
there a
that's
place
where
that-
Goldberg's is, over there.
Goldberg, yes.
The Red Tuba.
Marshmallows.
Yeah, there was a, yeah.
And it was the Red Tuba.
Shamsky. Oh, Shamsky. Yeah, a couple of Mets owned it. Yeah, that was for a while, it was Marshmallow.
This is a bottle from the brewery on Brewery Road. There actually was a brewery. And unfortunately, it's very, very rare. That's actually a broken bottle. I could never find another one. I have 300 different Rockland County bottles. So just from all the different towns. There's Strawtown Dairy, which, and that was another traffic jam. If the cows marching, you know, he's moving the cows down, or one of the cows got out on Strawtown Road, you'd have to stop for the damn cow to get out of the way, you know, and, you know, that was just the way it was up here. T-Berry Port. Oh, there it is. No, I must have had it twice. This is what I was talking to. They made tea, and I really consider this West Nyack where it is, but it's considered New City, and they sold this tea all over. It was a big deal. They imported it into the United States here. Now, this is Katz's. They had an apple orchard like my family did, but this was down off of exit. I'm going to say because it's exit 10. I call it. I don't know if it changed exit 11, whatever the heck it is. On like by Germans Road there. That's where, right after you get off the exit, you make the right. You go down towards Bardonia there, off the Palisades. That's where this was located. This is Dutch Gardens, which is across the street. It's been redone or whatnot. Some famous Mary, I can't. Her last name was part of it was DeClark. I can't remember the whole name, but she had designed this, and it's still next to the courthouse. It's just a little garden area. This is as it looks today.
I said the bricks for that came from Haverstraw.
Could have been. It may very well have been. Yeah. This is the post office. This was Everling's store. This was on the front where the courthouse is across the street. It was on the corner there. This was the big store in town. Later on, I believe the operator sat in this store because, you know, you just ring the operator and you connect me through or whatever, and this is where it was originally. This is the US Hotel over here. That's the Everlings, and New Hempstead Road is right over here, so it's just a little dirt road. These two things were not there, but they added them in. This was the big school on Old Schoolhouse Road, where New City Jewish Center is. This was the first school. It was the first library. They had the first library in the basement for New City. And there were boys.
I went there for 1 year.
You went there? Okay. They had the boys on one side and the girls on the other. I don't know if it was integrated when you went there, but that, you don't remember, come
I was
on.
6.
This was across the street here where the firehouse is. This was
Library.
the library. This is the first this is the second library, actually. This is the third library, which the medical center is across the street over there. This is the new library, and this is the new re-enhanced library. You know, it's gone through so many changes over the years and just refreshed. Now, another Forster's Hall, which you saw before, they had a big Memorial Eve dinner. That was, what is that?
1924.
1920, yeah, yep. Yep. This is the original firehouse, which was on the property right outside here, was right on the corner here. Then this is one of the first New City fire trucks. This is a picture taken of the firemen in front of the firehouse. This is the later firehouse. This is the new firehouse. This is well, I call it, this was a bunch of hotels. I call it the Union Hotel. This is Walter's Hotel. This is where, after the Elms burnt down, they brought the jurors over here to for lunch and whatnot. This after things had changed here. Then it was Jerry's Tavern. I don't know, some people may remember Jerry's Tavern.
Congress Road.
It was on Congress Road in 304. And this is what it is, what's there today. This is the motel, just the New City Motel. That's where the court offices are, and the jail and all the police headquarters over there now. This is going over to Frenchman's Farm. This was the brewery. It was later called Frenchman's Farm and Frenchman's Creek. There was a little place up until the 1970s or so. It was called Frenchman's Farm. They still had a food stand there. This is the Guild Farm. I don't know what the hell it was. I couldn't tell you, but it was at the end of Zucker Road. This is South Mountain Road over here behind this house, because this house is on the corner there, on corner of South Mountain and Zucker. But they had a Guild Farm. What it was for, I never really knew much about it, but I threw it in there. Oop. That's the Guild Farm again. This is Chestnut Grove, which is up on Little Tor Road, and there was the nurseries, Chestnut Grove Nursery. Most people remember that, up on Little Tor Road before they built the houses. This is, I'm getting bad. This is, oh, come on, Larry.
Charles
It
Buckley.
was Buckley, that's it, Buckley's, that's it, thank you. So I'm glad I got somebody here who remember. Yeah, this is Buckley's Farm, which is where, it's on the corner of Phillips Hill Road and Main Street, where they just built the nursing home and the post office. There was a big racetrack behind there. The racetrack was built from a lot of material from the World's Fair, and was brought up here, and they had it was a half-mile racetrack. It was really big. It was up there until probably 1970s. I was there. I rode the horses there and stuff, and so this is back to Squadron A.
Excuse me, go
Yep.
back one. Where was
What-
that?
one second.
Buckley's?
Buckley's. This was right where the post office was.
Left-hand side.
That was right. That's where it was. I don't have a picture. I have a picture of the building, but I don't have it here. Right where the post office is and the nursing
Horses in
home.
New City?
What?
Horses in New City?
In New City, yeah.
A riding place?
Yeah.
What
And
year
it
was
was.
this?
This was Buckley's. You know,
What year was it?
no, it was there since the 1930s or so. Up to the land is still there. You know.
And
There were horses still until recently, yeah. No, there was a big half-mile track, and it was just, a lot of
is
people.
this the one that's still on Main Street?
Yes, yeah, they just ripped it down, yeah.
Used to be called Atria, it's now Chelsea next door.
Atrium,
And
yeah.
that's the lot next door.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, go ahead. ahead of myself there. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, I'm losing it. Okay, that was squad training. Now getting on to the reservoir. The reservoir was built in like the 1950s or so. This is as it looked now. This is as they were building it in 1950. They had condemned all the property from all and created the reservoir there. This is the causeway before it was finished. This, you know, the car's 1950, and you know, this is where everybody goes fishing now. This is up at the end where the where you can go in through the gate. Yes.
Yeah, when the dirt and gravel was sort of bad.
The old bridge.
Is still, yes, the old.
Well, they just took it out because they buried the power lines. It's gone now. Because the last time the reservoir dropped.
Well, there was a problem. They had, the kids were swimming out to the rock out there also. There was this huge rock that they took and pushed into the water. I didn't know if the bridge, I don't, you know, I know you used to, when there was droughts, you used to be able to see that bridge and the old road that ran through there.
It's
Yeah,
gone now.
so, all right.
The road, now, I think before they flooded the reservoir, I think, was it Ridge Road forked off, I think. That road is still, you can see when the reservoir.
Still, yeah,
drops, it's
yeah, you still see some of the asphalt and whatnot,
I
yes.
think that was called Old
All right.
Yeah, it-
Now, this says it's very hard because my computer didn't, this is Rockland Lake ice. We were talking about that before. They sold Rockland Lake ice all over the place. Now, here's the story with Rockland Lake. If you see here in the front, when back in the 1920s and 30s, they started to mine Rockland, the Palisades Mountain. They were gonna blast all the mountain down into the lake and drain the lake actually. But now the story I was told, the Rockefellers and the Harrimans got together and formed the Palisades Park Commission, partly because they lived in Westchester and they wanted to see the view of the mountain. They didn't want to see this thing destroyed. So they put up the money and they bought all the land in Rockland Lake and created and started in Jersey and created to preserve the Palisades cliffs and everything all the way up to up into Bear Mountain. They bought a lot of the property to preserve it. So you can thank them for saving Rockland Lake, you know, and not destroying it. This is Rockland Lake. My friend went by, said, got a helicopter. That's what it looks like today. And now here you can look. This is Rockland Lake. This is Congers Lake. And this is the reservoir. It looks like so nice and serene. No, you know, it doesn't look like a lot of houses. Get down to the ground, and it's all houses. You know, it's just, you know. These are pictures of Hook Mountain down by the river. All right. This is one of the stores in Rockland Lake. This is Rockland Lake itself. Now, Rockland Lake was a big town. Once the park really took it over, and now I was probably 6, 7, or 8, and 9W didn't go the way it does now. We had to go through to get to Nyack. We had to go there. So my father said, "Oh, we're going through the ghost town now," you know, because they had bought up all the houses and they were all empty, and you just drove through there, and it was just, you know, kind of like a scary little thing. This was the pier down at down in Rockland Lake. The Chesapeake. This was the Nyack paddle wheel boat. It was docked in Nyack usually, but it came up. It was like a dayliner, brought you up also up the river. This is the firehouse, which is still there. Now, that's the firehouse as it is today. Just another view looking down into the town.
Thank you. Thank you,
Oh, they're looking, well. I think they're looking for the women's shoes. Oh, okay. Whatever, it was a big resort area. People came up, there was a casino up there. In the 1940s or so, it became a big resort area. This is the Continental Hotel, which is there, still there. The church, which is gone. Then this is the big, there was a controversy about knocking this down. They didn't want it to, but one night in the early morning they came in and bulldozed it down. Yep.
When, do you know when they stopped allowing people to swim in the lake?
They stopped what?
Stopped allowing people to swim in the lake in Rockland?
I don't know. I really don't know.
For years you could, and and I think they stopped because it was, I guess, fertilizer, drainage in the lake.
Yeah, well, it's, everything today is a problem, so, you know, it's just, it's just, health reasons or whatnot, I really don't know. This was the school up in the back, still there.
He went to school there. He went to the
You went to, in Rockland Lake, yeah.
three-room schoolhouse.
And who was the teacher? Come on. She was also the switchboard operator, and it was just, it was a fun, I got a little pamphlet on it on Rockland Lake, there's a little, it says, she did all these different things. These are one of the ice houses that they had around the lake, and there were some issues, this is during the winter, they harvested all this ice, put them in these buildings. The walls were 2 feet thick, and every once in a while, one of the buildings would catch on fire. They could never put them out. They were filled with sawdust, and they would burn for years. You know, somebody had given a talk on that a couple of years ago. There was a lot of interest in Rockland Lake. This is them harvesting the ice. The hotel again. Oh, what? Yeah. Just 1 second. Then this was the hotel. There was a hotel down at the bottom of the hill on the river. So if you came up the river, you could stay in this hotel, and you could walk along the paths or whatnot, and then take the boat further up or further south. This was the big rock crusher that they had set up, which they later dismantled because they stopped, you know, they stopped mining the rock. This was out in front on, which is what's considered 9W. This is part, the entrance to the casino. There was the Bob Inn. There were a bunch of different things. This is an aerial view of Rockland Lake. This is the Bob Inn here.
Go
and this,
back one.
yeah. Oh, there's a charge for each picture. You know. This was the bungalow colony, and some of this little, if you go up over there, if you go on 9W and look in, there's still some of those little bungalows that are converted into houses. There's still people living in them. This was the Bob Inn. Big happening place, along with the Hawaiian luau down the street there. You know, you had a whole night's full of activity. You know, it's just. This was another restaurant next door. This was what is it?
Blue Urn.
The Blue Urn Inn. This is a view of. You can see some of the ice houses that line the lake. That's the Continental Hotel there. What do I do? Okay. Or the ice houses. Or the ice industry was a huge industry here. This was one of the recreational areas. This was the casino. Like I said, the ferry would come up, or you take the train up to Congers and then go over. You could stay here. You'd stay overnight or for a few days. You know, a lot of the people came up here from the city because it got so hot during the summer. There's no air conditioning back in the early 20s and 30s. So they'd come up here, and some of them would spend the summer. There were a lot of bungalow colonies around here in the 30s and 40s. Another view overlooking Rockland Lake. Pavilions, looking down at Rockland Lake. That's the parking lot today. These are down along the river. These are some of the buildings that house the bathhouses, and there was an amusement park also down there at one time along the river. These are some of the remains of the buildings. Hudson River. This is the big. This lighthouse was on our side of the river, not on. There was the Rockland Lake Rockland Lake Lighthouse. We're not talking about the one in Tarrytown. There was one out there because there was a reef out there. That's what it looks like today. They have a light out there. Along the shoreline. This is what it looked like back in the 1930s or 40s. There were hiking trails, and this was called Hook Mountain State Park. There you see one of the boats, the bathhouses. Now here we go, one of the last. Now, this was Spring Valley Airport. It's where Costco is today. You know, why they did away with it. We're the only county, I think, in New York State that does not have an airport. But that's the way it is. This is Central Nyack. Now, Central Nyack was just a little area right between Nyack and West Nyack. You know, Erica was from the office told me she lived here in this area. I didn't even realize that, but there was absolutely very, very, like, not much of anything. There was a bar there. There was, that's basically it for Central Nyack. But there is, on Route 59, I just want to mention this, there's a lumber yard. Now, behind the lumber yard is a cemetery. Now, it's called a rural cemetery, and back in the 1800s or so, people wanted to be buried to rest out in the country. So a lot of the organizations in New York City bought property in outer counties and whatnot. So they bought this land, and you can still, if behind the lumber yard, the cemetery's there. What happened was the last person who was alive who had control over the cemetery about, I'm going to say 15 years ago, came into us one night and said, here's the deeds for the cemetery. We can no longer take care of it. I'm the last person. And they handed it over to the town of Clarkstown. Well, the town of Clarkstown just got a grant to clean up the whole cemetery. There's around 50 acres in there. There's quite a few graves and whatnot, but it's a beautiful brick-lined cemetery, and they're going to clean the whole thing up, because it's our responsibility to take care of them. But New York State issued a grant to take care of a lot of these cemeteries that have fallen apart. So that you'll look for in the coming years that they'll clean that up. The entrance is on one of the side streets. This is down in West Nyack. This is the Clarkstown Reformed Church. There, if you know on Germans Road, as you go past there, you see the little cemetery on the left-hand side. This is where this church originally started. All the gravestones are still there, but this building burnt down. They built this new building over here on, is it Strawtown? Get me right.
Yes.
Strawtown, okay, I'll get it right. They keep jumping around on me. This is the church today. And I mentioned this is the Mount Moore Cemetery. Now, Mount Moore, originally West Nyack was called Mount Moore. Now, this cemetery is in the middle of the Palisades Center. And unfortunately, originally it was for African Americans who died in the Civil War, and also African Americans, they were all buried here because they weren't allowed to be buried in the regular cemetery. So after the Civil War, a lot of these were soldiers who had died in the Civil War. They buried them here, and we made them all, they wanted to move it. They said no way. So they built them all around the cemetery. You can go and visit. You can pull up and walk in there and see some of the gravestones and whatnot. Unfortunately, this is West Nyack. It's the Four Corners, where the Clarksville Inn is. Let's move on to a bigger one. This is Eugene. It was called a bunch of different things over the years. But this is from the 1840s. This is the back of it. That other one was the front, this is the back. And this is as it is today. This is the Trapphagen Butke House. Now I wanted to say, we have the Fall Festival coming up in October, which is a big thing. And if the house is it's owned by the town, and it's only open a couple times a year. But we're having the Fall Festival Sunday, October 20th, from 12 to 4. All right, and you can come visit the grounds, you come see. This has all been renovated. I don't know if some of you may have been here, but this is the way it looked forever. And if you drove by as a kid, it would always look like this. And this is as it looks today. It's all restored and whatnot. I'll be there on October 20th if you'd like to come and see this and the Trapphagen House. So the town preserved this. It's 9 acres, and it's incorporated into the town park.
These houses ever open other than the tree?
Not only occasionally, because the problem is staffing. If we have it open, you got to look on the town website every once in a while. Just in general, it's not. We're trying to do other things there, but it's just it's a big operation to open the place and whatnot. This is the Four Corners. This house is still, has just been renovated. But that was the fire gong. And they had been working on this house for years. This across the street, there was this little, I don't know what you would call it, but they hung a flag.
Richard Kiley lived in that house.
Yes.
Sorry, could you go back a second to the Four Corners?
Yep.
So that's looking.
That's looking south.
That's
South towards, you're going into the town of West Nyack.
So if I go back there, that's where this high school is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the school, and the library. The library is up over here, and the thruway.
That's what the.
Yeah, Korngold, that was an interesting thing. Korngold lived there. That was a wild house when he lived in there. I heard when it's Korngold, they had a red it was all kinds of crazy things, whatever, we won't even discuss it. This is one of the hotels in downtown Metropolitan, West Nyack. Millendale, this house was just restored. And, a couple lives, a bunch of couples live there,
By the school.
This house is right on the corner of Jermon's, and if you come right before the junior high, if you look to the left at where the triangle is, if you look in the woods there, this house and the lake is still there, and I stopped to talk to this people. This woman actually was still alive a few years ago, I don't know how long ago, had come and spoken to these people, because the doctor owns this house, and I showed him this picture. He said, this woman came here one day, just to see the house. This is the school where the library is today, I believe. This was the mill. This was the mill next to. Go back. Next to. Come on, go back. Wherever it was, whatever. It was the mill next. This. Gotta keep moving on. This was the mill. Oh, next to I passed the house. But there was the last witch trial in New York State was held here in the lake behind here, and the big story was that she was a witch, but she was a naturalist, and she believed in herbs and stuff. But they tried her as a witch, and the story was that if she was really a witch, the Bible would weigh more than her, and they put her on a scale, and she went down, and the Bible went up, and she wasn't a witch, and she got off, But yeah, all right. This is in the town of West Nyack. This was where the train station was. You'll see in a second. This is right in the same area. The train tracks ran right through here. This is down where Plasticraft is, where you go in and you make that turn. That's where that building is, and this is the train station in West Nyack.
Quick question about that. So now you have the Conrail or whatever it is now, tracks that kind of cut through. Was that ever, because if you go on 59, you'll see that there's still a sign that says West Nyack Road that goes, before you turn onto West Nyack Road, there's like the train tracks.
Yes.
There's another sign. Was that ever one complete road, or did they just?
I honestly don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. But the story is told that years before this, and one of the engines for one of the trains sank, and they couldn't get it out. They pushed it off to the side into the great swamp, which the Indians cursed when the white man came. All right. The story is told that's where the mall is. And that's why the mall's still sinking. Okay, that the mall, if you go in, it's going down and down and down because the Indians cursed it. They came. The Indians were very upset when the white man came because they drained their swamps and killed all their animals and forced them out of here. That's the underpass there. That's looking at where the train was. The firehouse in West Nyack Fire Department. Nyack Motor Lodge, this is, now come on, this is the big times here, we had Howard Johnson's, we had Nyack Motor Lodge, we had everything here, Everybody remember go to Howard Johnson's, the all-you-can-eat fish fry, all the chocolate pudding you can eat, it's just, it was, now this is where another one of the airports were. This is where the mall is today. This is 303 and 59, and if you see these, well, you can kind of see it. These are the runways are right here from where the airport was. There was I don't know how many how many planes were here, but it was a landing strip, quote unquote, large, for the area. This was a famous grower of irises, which was on the reservoir, and he sold them all over the world. He won a lot of awards, and this is the Esso station, which is still there out on 59. It's the intersection of, this is right out in front of the mall, out in front of the mall. Which way, you want to go back this way?
No, I want you to go forward. There you go.
This is the intersection of Palisades Parkway, which wasn't built until 1956. Well, no, I mean the 1950s, not 1956. So that was the big interchange. And you see there's virtually nothing around there now. This is the big ice cream parlor down in West Nyack, in the business district. This was Scotty's Italian Gardens, which was on 59. This was Scotty's, they had a big restaurant bar. This was Hogan's Diner. And everybody ate there. This was down by the mall. This is, gone now. And he had bought the diner. Then they moved up to Stony Point, and finally he sold and retired. Now this is Johnny's gas station. The reason I have this in here is that this is where the first police station was for Clarkstown. Was in, not this little, it wasn't this little building. I have a picture, but I couldn't find it. But this was Johnny's gas station on the corner of Old 59 and 304.
It's gonna be Starbucks.
And where now they ripped the building down. Now they ripped the building down, and now there's Starbucks. They're opening up there in a couple of weeks. Miller's Dairy, which was down on 59. They had a milk. This was like an ice cream parlor, milk place. Miller's was the big dairy here. Now here's back to Dexter Press. Like I said, this is a story I told at the beginning of all the postcards. This is Valley Cottage. I'm just starting to move along. It's getting late, but if everybody's fine, I'll keep going. I can talk forever, But this is downtown Valley Cottage. This is Valley Cottage looking towards Hook Mountain. These buildings are still there. This is where the church is today, and the comedy club was there. Mr. Rips. This was Mr. Rips. This is as it looks today. This is the bus depot. Peter Gray, yes, bus depot. This was a rest home. You came up to Convalent, maybe I guess you had a little mental problems or whatever, you came here too, so. This is Joy Acres, which was a big bungalow colony, and it's over next to the Tolstoy. They had a pool there. This is Joy Acres. They had a lot of resort areas up in Valley Cottage. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'm just trying to finish up here. A bunch of the houses there are just, this is actually the way, if you look down this street, you're gonna see in a second, looking this way, the deli's here on the corner, okay? It's still there today, and this is as it looks today. This house is this house here, and the deli is still here on the corner. Peter Breger's is right over there. This is the school in Valley Cottage, as it looks today. Tolstoy, Russian Orthodox. This was the Fresh Air Fund. Today it's Camp Ramah. In the 1920s and 30s, this was, you could send your kid, not the kid, but they had a Fresh Air Fund for the city. For $5, you could send your kid for a week up to the Fresh Air Fund out in the country. And this was the country. These are all the buildings, a lot of them are still there. And as it looks today. This is the Christian Herald home, that's what it looks like today. Hook Mountain again. This is another pictures, Crumbles Glen, which is down in Upper Nyack. Helen Hayes' home, which is part, see, this is Upper Nyack, but it's still part of Clarkstown. This is her house, Pretty Penny. And this is the church, the old stone church was like the oldest church in Rockland County. Right down, it's between Upper Nyack and Nyack. That's what it looks like today. This is Marydale. This is Hook Mountain State Park, which is all the way, you can go down Park down there and walk up along the path going up towards Havistraw. View looking south. Hook Mountain. This is the Clarkstown Country Club. This is the village of Upper Nyack. Marydale, down at the end of Broadway. It's called something else. I think down at the end there. This is still Marydale. I'm just trying to finish up here. This Atwood, it was a famous guy who was flying. This is very early in aviation, 1915, 1920. He had not crashed, he landed here. His plane broke down, and he landed here on the beach in Upper Nyack. This is John Hurley. He was one of the first constables of West Nyack. And I happened to, it was a very strange story. I went to an auction 30, 40 years ago, and I bought this sign, not knowing what this was, okay? And it turned out we had a history of 225th, and somebody showed this picture, and I said, I have that sign at home. Well, it's now on exhibit down in the Traphagen house. I donated it to him. And that's the end of our talk for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you for staying.